And, you know, leading up to this passage of the NDAA, there has been quite a bit of discussion and debate, at least here at RT, about two sections of the bill, Section 1021 and 1022, and just how far the government can go in terms of detaining people indefinitely. As of now, anyone who the president determines to have substantially supported the Taliban, al-Qaeda, or associated forces may be designated as enemy combatants, subject to indefinite detention. Now, that includes U.S. citizens. Senator Dianne Feinstein, a Democrat from California, tried to fix that, getting in what's known as the Feinstein Amendment, inserted into the bill. Now, it states that an authorization to use military force, a declaration of war, or any similar authority shall not authorize the detention without charge or trial of a citizen or lawful permanent resident of the United States apprehended in the United States unless an act of Congress expressly authorizes such detention. Well, for those who have been fighting to get U.S. citizens removed from this indefinite detention clause, this seemed like a victory. But now several people are coming forward and saying not only does this not make things better, it actually makes things worse. Let's go now to Carl Mayer, an attorney with the Mayer Law Group, who has actually been representing Chris Hedges in the lawsuit over NDAA. Hey there, Carl. With this in place, let's just talk really quick about your case. I mean, does Chris Hedges still have a case? Before, his position was that the NDAA could affect him directly as a journalist, since in years past he's had contact with people considered to be, you know, al-Qaeda, Taliban, etc. He's a U.S. citizen, so is this case closed?
Thank you, first of all, for having me on, Christine. I appreciate your time this evening. No, this case is not closed at all. The fight goes on. The fight is still before the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. We won below in the U.S. District Court. The judge in our case so far, Judge Forrest, has declared the 2012 NDAA entirely unconstitutional, at least the provision that relates to detention of Americans. Of civilians and citizens, including Hedges. In terms of whether Chris Hedges still has a case right now, it's really unclear from the text of the Feinstein Amendment, because there's nowhere in the Feinstein Amendment, and I'm reading directly from the copy of it, that says that Chris Hedges or any other journalist would be entitled to a trial by jury. In other words, it could be interpreted as simply a trial, which could be a military trial, a trial before a military tribunal, which is not a jury trial, and that would be unconstitutional. Secondly, to the extent that, and again, the 2013 NDAA is not law. So until the president signs it, and he's threatened to veto it, it is not law. So the Hedges case is still alive. We're in the midst of writing our briefs, and the Second Circuit will hear it soon.
Let's talk a little bigger picture here. According to the ACLU, the 2013 NDAA might look like a fix because of the Feinstein Amendment, but it breaks things further. Talk about what this would change.
Yes, that's right. This legislation gives with one hand and takes away with the other hand, because what this legislation does is even though it appears, and there's a lot of caveats to that, even though it appears to carve out U.S. citizens for protection, and as well as green card holders, it exempts everyone else from protection. So really what all the civil liberties groups are complaining about, and what we believe to be the case as well, is that you would still have indefinite detention by the military of, say, illegal aliens, foreign nationals who are in the United States. Let's say you're a journalist in the United States, you're a Russian citizen, but you're in the United States. Then you could be indefinitely detained by the military under this supposed fix, which is why all the major civil liberties groups were against the Feinstein Amendment, because it makes things worse in many respects.
Yeah, certainly giving the military the power to sort of operate in this country, the homeland battlefield idea is really interesting, and it kind of puts that in writing. There's some confusion, though, Carl, because of the authorization for the use of military force, which, as we know, that passed right after 9/11, and basically gives the president unlimited power inside and outside of the U.S. And if I'm not mistaken, this is still in effect. Can you unravel this for us and what it means in sort of normal language here?
Yes. All right. I'll do my best, but I think it's an overstatement. The administration wants to say that the AUMF does give them unlimited power. It does not. The AUMF was only narrowly targeted to the people who were involved in planning 9/11 and executing 9/11 and Al-Qaeda, period. That's all. That's the only people that were targeted under the authorization of use for military force. Now, the NDAA then expanded that to everyone, to journalists like yourself, or to Chris Hedges, or civilians, or resident aliens, or whomever, any civilian in the United States. And that is the problem with the NDAA, is it goes way beyond the authorization for the use of military force. And we're asking the courts to clarify all this. You're right, it's very difficult for the ordinary Americans and your viewers worldwide to make sense of all this. But we've been very clear from the beginning. We have a very clear principle that we're advocating for in the courts, which is the military does not police our streets in this country. That's an ancient constitutional doctrine, and the military cannot be used to detain, whether it be citizens, illegal aliens, any civilian in the United States, period. End of story. Any civilian cannot be detained in the United States of America. And we think that is why even the new Feinstein Amendment is unconstitutional. If we have to challenge that, we will. But it hasn't been enacted yet, and even as a fix, it makes things worse for a lot of people because what it does is it authorizes by statute, it makes clear by statute that for the first time the president can use the military to detain people within the borders of the United States, and that is un-American and unconstitutional.
Now, as far as sort of the progression of what happens next, the House and Senate still need to go through and sort of find common ground before even sending the bill to the president. So there will be a few differences they'll need to iron out. But as you said, the president has said he would veto this if language is left in the bill that prohibits him from transferring military prisoners held at Guantanamo Bay into civilian custody. Talk a little bit about why this is such a sticking point for both sides. I mean, why did the Senate include this, and why does the president say he would veto it if it's in the final bill?
Because again, most of this legislation is all political posturing by people like Lindsey Graham, who resembles more a rabid dog than a reasoned constitutional scholar. He actually said that the reason they can't close Guantanamo is he doesn't want, quote, those crazy bastards, end quote, in the United States. And last year he was quoted on the floor as saying that anyone who is concerned about our civil liberties should shut up because they don't have a right to a lawyer if they're considered terrorists by Senator Lindsey Graham. So that's why Graham put this in, and the Republicans put this in, saying that we shouldn't close Guantanamo.
I think important to note, too, regarding, a lot of times when regular people think of Guantanamo Bay, they do think, the worst of the worst, the terrorists are held there. But let's not forget that a large number of people at Guantanamo Bay right now have been cleared for release, but just have not been released because of, certain political situations in the countries, their country of origin. So I think it's important to note here that a lot of these, I think you said, crazy bastards, using Lindsey Graham's words, are not exactly that.
Well, that's right. And the same when Lindsey Graham says, you're a terrorist, shut up, you don't get a lawyer. It's he who is deciding what people have done in advance. But that's what we have the courts for. We have the courts so that people can get a due process and a fair trial. So, I think this is another terrible provision for that. I don't know whether it will cause the president to veto it. I don't think he will. But whatever he does, it goes against Obama's campaign promises to shut Guantanamo. Guantanamo has been a shameful chapter in American history. They've repeatedly been sanctioned and cited by the court for improper practices there. So we are part of this process too as lawyers. Our Second Circuit case, where the government is appealing Judge Forrest's ruling, which stated the NDAA is unconstitutional, is coming up soon. We might even have some more litigation surprises that we'll let RT know about in the near future.
Well, we always appreciate that, and let's not forget, the president said he would veto it last year and ended up signing it on New Year's Eve. So, of course, we will keep our eyes on all of this. Carl Mayer, attorney at the Mayer Law Group, thanks so much.
Thank you.